Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Lord, we can do better than that. It's Tuesday. You're not sitting at your office desk. You are away from your office, and we're here in Belton, Missouri. Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Marques Stewart. I'm definitely glad to be here with you this morning. I'm not accustomed to this weather here, being I am from Florida. I walked out the house this morning, wish I shaved my head last night, and walked out, and I left my skull cap. So I'm gonna have to stop everybody at some point today to grab that and put it on my head. Bring you greetings from Kansas City, Kansas Public Schools. I'm excited to be here with you this morning. Last night, I have to be honest with you, I knew about this opportunity a few months ago, and I changed the messaging this morning a few times. We're gonna talk about teaching and learning. We're gonna talk about ed tech. We're gonna talk about just a number of different things, but today, we're gonna take a different twist. Proud graduate of the greatest HBCU on the planet, Alabama State University. Gotta put it out there. You know, being a former gang member, you know, watching a friend of mine murdered in 9th grade, right in front of me. You know, not having the best of grades, but I had a caring grandmother, a caring mother, a caring grandfather. My grandfather was a preacher. My grandmother was a teacher, and my mother aspired to be a teacher, however, ended up being a paraprofessional, but she was also a teacher as well. So I had an opportunity to be surrounded by individuals who pushed me to be great. They did not accept failure, although as a teenager, you know, as teenagers do, we tend to veer off and try to do different things that our parents won't find out. You know, snuck out the window and I came back in. Mom was sitting in my room waiting on me. So, had a lot of things going on in my life. But I'm excited that, you know, I'm here today. I overcame a lot of obstacles to be here. And I don't apologize for it because that's part of my testimony. So why do I choose to lead? So I grew up in Pensacola, Florida, as I mentioned earlier. My aunt took me to this movie, 5th grade, to see Lean on Me. Don't know why she took me to see that movie. You know, 5th grade, I wasn't thinking about this type of things. But as I watched the movie, as the movie went on, I knew in 5th grade what I wanted to do with my life. I knew I wanted to lead. I knew, you know, grandfather's a preacher, grandmother's a teacher, mom's a paraprofessional. Hey, I'm an educator. I like running my mouth. So ended up going to education because of this particular movie. I'm gonna show you a clip here to show you what was my drive for wanting to serve in this role.
Yes, sir.
I want remedial reading on Saturdays.
Yes, Mr. Clark.
We'll have to ask for volunteers at regular pay because we can't afford overtime.
Mr. Clark,
Yes, Mrs. Santos.
the problem isn't our pay.
What is the problem as you see it, Mrs. Santos?
How to get the students in on Saturday, sir.
You hear that, people? Mrs. Santos says, how do we get the students in on Saturdays for remedial reading? Well, I'll tell you how. We'll go to their homes. We will talk to their folks. If their folks can't read, they can come in too. The only way we're going to get anything done is to get everyone involved. And that goes for all of you. It's time to get involved. Everyone in this section, put both your hands above your heads. Raise your hands. Put them out. You people represent the 70% of our students who just failed the practice exam. 70%. But that is not their failure. I don't blame them. The failure is yours. That's right, yours. How many hours do you spend preparing your lesson plans? How often do you stay after school to give those children, the ones you know needed, the extra help that they require? Keep your hands up. Now you are getting a hint of the kind of hopelessness and shame that makes those failing students throw up their hands at the thought of facing a world for which you have not prepared them. You are getting the merest inkling of the despair they feel when left to the mercy of the streets. Keep your hands up high. Now look around at yourselves. Turn and look at yourselves. Because you are failing to educate them. This is the posture that many of our students will wind up in. Only they'll be staring down the barrel of a gun.
All right, so that clip, again, that movie is what inspired me to be a leader in education. That clip is what also, at the end of my very first year as a principal, that got me non-renewed. And I'm not ashamed to say it. I went into the schools, wanted to lead like Mr. Clark. I did not take the opportunity to build relationships. I did not take the opportunity to get to know the people that I serve. It was all, for me, it was all about pushing academics, pushing people to be great. And there's a way that you can do that, but I quickly learned at the end of the year that I was not coming back. Highest 10 scores in the district in 1 year. But because of the toxic environment that I created, I was out of there. And the way this thing came full circle, so the next year I accepted a position in another district as an assistant principal. I had an opportunity to watch a principal who led like me. I had an aha moment then. I said, you know what? I realized what my faults were, and I had to do a better job of being me, building those relationships. And as I built those relationships with staff began to do a lot more. We began to accomplish more. People were able to talk to one another versus being in a gym with your hands up. And if I say move to the right, everybody move to the right, or move back. That doesn't work. This table?
So I have quite a few friends that are educators and former educators. The number one thing that I heard is they weren't fully equipped to deal with a lot of students and their social emotional behaviors when they came in the classroom. They said about 70 to 73% of their time they were correcting behavior or trying to get them to focus more in this day and age now. So of course, COVID exacerbated what was already there, and it just kind of put a spotlight on it. So they don't feel adequate enough to be able to handle what walks in their classroom, and then the parents expect it, but the parents aren't doing what they need to at home. So that's huge.
Yeah, okay. And what's this table?
Go ahead. You said that it takes a lot of muscle these days to be a teacher, and our young teachers coming in, sometimes they don't have the support. And I don't think that's by any fault of the principal. I mean, I did it for 7 years, much less than a lot of people did, but I just think that one person can't be everything for an entire building of teachers, families, kids. And I think that's a lot of pressure for a principal. So then therefore they do the best that they can to support their teachers, but then the teachers just don't get everything that they need. And so we said they can just go someplace else and make more money with less stress. And we also talked about, because we both have children that are millennials, millennials just are not staying in jobs from year one to retirement like I did, like Becky is. I mean, it's just, and I noticed that with my new teachers. I could keep them for 2 or 3 years and then they were off to bigger and better things.
Great point, because I hear teachers, even in our own district, by word of the principal, they'll quit. Don't mind quitting in the middle of the year. Like, where's the heart? Where's the love for kids? Like to me, that's an easy way out.
That was unheard of 10 years ago.
Right.
In the middle of your contract, but it happens a lot.
Yeah. And the thing is, what bothers me about that is, we leave, and those kids still need the support. They need a trusted adult in front of them, not a long-term substitute.
Right.
We need a certified staff member that's in front of them, providing high-quality instruction every single day. And I think one of the problems is, as we look at education, there's a lot of focus on MTSS. Well, we need to focus more on tier 1 instruction, so that we can prevent MTSS.
Right.
Because you cannot intervene your way out of a tier 1 problem. Can't do that. You all have a comment why people are leaving?
Yeah, I think the political environment, consistency and leadership is just in the country, just new leadership is, board gets mad at somebody, they're gone. New superintendent comes in and changes everything. Teachers aren't consistent in their standing. I think opportunity. I mean, there's other opportunities outside the market that can make more revenue at. And so because of that, even if you love teaching and you have children at home and you want to make more money, you might go somewhere else. So I think there's a lot of different factors that are.
Yeah. And think about it now. Let's shift up a little bit. We talked about teachers. What about leaders?
Mm-hmm.
Leaders are leaving as well. I have several friends who left the K-12 sector and went on to the ed tech area or some other places that are great leaders. And so when I think about all of this is kind of our focus this morning. I only have about 12 more minutes remaining. But
No, you got more than that. You got at least like almost 20, right? We started early.
Oh, wow, okay. Well, let me slow it down. Yes, ma'am.
So, and this might be a little controversial, but I also think now, because there's teacher shortages, because teachers are leaving, now we tend to think anyone can teach. Just put them in a classroom and, they have, maybe a college degree, a business degree or something. And so and I understand why we're doing that. I mean, we're at, Kansas City Public, we're doing all kinds of things to try to get, teachers in classrooms, but I don't know that that's going to be a sustainable long-term solution to keep people in classrooms.
Yeah.
So, sorry, you hit on a key point of the value of education.
Mm-hmm.
As educators, we are the one who impacts any opportunity, career path, CTE path, anything in this world, it starts with the field of education. We've had that autonomy and leverage for centuries. However, the value of the field of education has been depleted. When you made that statement, you rose me up back here because in those who are true educators, we are offended by individuals thinking that the field of education is a secondary option.
Absolutely.
It's an option. I couldn't be a doctor, so I'm gonna go teach.
Right.
I couldn't be a lawyer and pass the bar, so I'm gonna go teach.
Mm-hmm.
And so part of what we have to look at what's going on in the field of education is we have to take back ownership of the career that this is and not a secondary option.
Yeah, and the value of it.
And the value of the field of education.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yep, and we have to, go ahead, yes ma'am.
I also think, and I said this in one of the other cities that we're in, we have had an ongoing campaign in education for a really long time that you don't get paid very well. And I just want to say, I've looked at the numbers, and that's not really true anymore against what's happening in the private sector. The private sector has almost no benefits. There's like maybe one car manufacturer that would give you pensions, right? The actual long-term overall healthcare pension pay, even the base pay is higher now on a national average for teachers than it is for the private sector. Has been for 10 years. So we've had this ongoing campaign, you can't make any money, you don't get to be like, awesome when you're a teacher making money. And because we have that campaign, it's very hard to attract people. Because they're like, no, why would I do that? You don't get paid anything, right? Well, actually, it's better than working at Walmart for sure.
Yep. And this is going off topic a little bit, thinking about how do we recruit our next generation of teachers. I had an opportunity early this year to take my daughter, my daughter was a senior in high school, had an opportunity to take her on a college tour. And as I go through the city down in South Carolina, there are signs out in the school district. They have a teacher preparation program for high schoolers. I think that's genius. We got to start early because I remember, when I came in education, probably many of you all the same thing, that there was a line of people ready to teach. A line of people, you lose somebody, you get 2 or 3 more you get to choose from. Now, you got to take the person who's non-certified. You got to take the person who has less experience. And so, unfortunately, that sometimes can be an issue. But I think we have to look at, as educators in school districts, how do we create that pipeline of teachers starting in our districts? How can we partner with the University of Kansas or UMKC to create that pipeline so as kids graduate from our great school districts, they go on to these programs, they can come back. So I think that's off topic. But thank you all for you all's commentary. Great points. When I think about everything that you shared, and I'll go back to this morning. Me coming here this morning, I was nervous. I felt like the morning I was doing my dissertation, and when I need to work on myself, my mental health. And so what do? My favorite song that helps me calm down. Anybody remember Phil Collins in the Heat of the Night? And I can feel it calling me, whatever it is. That calmed me down. So I listened to that song probably 3 times before I got here this morning. So now I'm calm. But again, that's how I deal with my own mental health when I'm nervous or whatever. And so today we want to really take a quick dive into mental health and relationships. I think that's how we begin to keep educators in our classrooms, keep leaders, and so on and so forth. Mental health is defined a state of mental health well-being that enables people to cope with the stresses of life, realize their abilities, learn well, and work well, and contribute to their community. So I go back to just our previous conversation. People are leaving because of they're not okay. Educators are not okay. And while we're coming off a pandemic, a lot of our kids are still demonstrating some of the same behaviors pre-pandemic. But it's like some of our educators now, like they escalate these things and, hey, he's just talking. He's just, he's a busy kid. Let's find ways to work with them. So that does affect their mental health. Right. And so we as leaders have to find ways to help our educators cope, to be able to show up every single day. So, implication of poor mental health, relationship difficulties. When I say not relationship, their spouse or significant other, the relationship with staff. I may not want to talk to my coworker because of what I'm dealing with. I may not have anybody that I feel like talking to. So what do? I isolate myself away from everyone. Absence from work. How many of y'all are from the school district where you have high absentee rates right now? Raise your hand. That's an issue. Mondays and Fridays, I get calls from my principals. I got 17 teachers out. Guess what? Our kids are still showing up no matter what. And so that's, again, a negative implication for poor mental health. It causes a negative impact on our students. We're expected to grow students each year, but we can't grow students if the teachers are gone for a third of the year or longer. Burnout. I heard somebody mention burnout. Yeah. They get burned out and they just quit. Yep. Depression, anxiety. We've all dealt with that. I know I have as an educator. I know when I walked into my first classroom and I really go back to my pre-college preparation program. Yeah. It taught me to teach kids as if everyone was on grade level. Seriously. Okay. I wrote a sentence on the board the first day, gave them their assignment, and I went and sat down. When I sat down, I had 26 students in my classroom. When I sat down, 23 of the students raised their hand because they could not understand what I wrote. Now, I don't have the best handwriting, but I know that was legible enough that anybody could read. My pre-college preparation program did not prepare me to teach children who were grade levels behind. So that was something that I had to learn on the job from other educators. But again, that caused some anxiety. I went home and I started eating more. I started drinking a little bit more. Like, come on. Those things, I was depressed. Like, my grandmother was an educator, and I could always call on her to, Granny, why won't they learn? And my grandmother was also a special education teacher, and so she would always give me some strategies that work. And so I'm very thankful for her for helping me to deal with that. But how many people don't have someone to call on?
Correct.
And they're in classes today. So how can we help? As leaders, we have to pay attention to changes. We have to do wellness checks. My last building that I was principal of, we did a Wellness Wednesday check-in. We brought in an external counselor to do a group session with our staff. And from that group presentation, then there were some individuals who needed a smaller group or one-on-one. But we provided that opportunity so that they could have someone to talk to. Because at the end of the day, I didn't want people walking out on my kids. We're already in a pretty bad area. And so those kids need someone to show up every day. Also, creating support groups within the school. That's very important. Create that whole community of care. That has to happen. I feel like now schools are, and I say this all the time, schools have to almost be like Walmart. It has to be a one-stop shop. You got to take care of your students first and foremost, but you also got to take care of your staff. It wasn't that way years ago, but now that's what we find ourselves. And lastly, be a listener. Be a listener. Sit down and have a conversation with people. Now we're going to shift. How are we helping our leaders in KCKPS? Anyone ever read this book, The Fred Factor? If not, please go get it today. It's on Amazon, wherever you find it. It's helping us to help coach our principals, to help coach their staff, because at the end of the day, we want to retain 100% of the people that we have. So it talks about everyone makes a difference. We want people to feel like, no matter whether they are a custodian, a paraprofessional, cafeteria worker, we want everyone to feel valued. And as a principal, I made sure each day that I walked around and had a quick conversation just to check in on my folks. I could tell if Mr. Edwards was having a bad day. We could step out and talk just by that 1 minute conversation. Mm-hmm. But it let him know that he mattered to me. Sometimes as leaders, we get so caught up in, we got to push out these emails. We got to get ready for this meeting. We got to do a PLC. But sometimes we forget about the people. And so we have to be mindful of those things. Success is built on relationships. I think, my lesson I told you earlier after my first principalship, it taught me about building relationships. So we're going to shift here to a quick video here.
Gee, can I read something from my diary?
That'd be great.
The summer was the worst summer in my short 14 years of life. It all started with a phone call. My mother was crying and begging, asking for more time, as if she were gasping for her last breath of air. She held me as tight as she could and cried. Her tears hit my shirt like bullets and told me we were being evicted. She kept apologizing to me. I thought I have no home. I should have asked for something less expensive at Christmas. On the morning of the eviction, a hard knock on the door woke me up. The sheriff was there to do his job. I looked up at the sky, waiting for something to happen. My mother has no family to lean on, no money coming in. Why bother coming to school or getting good grades if I'm homeless? The bus stops in front of the school. I feel like throwing up. I'm wearing clothes from last year, some old shoes and only a haircut. I kept thinking I'd get laughed at. Instead, I'm greeted by a couple of friends who were in my English class last year. And it hits me, Mrs. Growal, my crazy English teacher from last year, is the only person that made me think of hope. Talking with friends about last year's English and our trips, I began to feel better. I received my schedule and the first teacher is Mrs. Growal, room 203. I walk into the room and feel as though all the problems in life are not so important anymore. I am home.
Take a quick 30 seconds. While this was a movie, think about the work that this teacher did to create that environment in her classroom. Take 30 seconds to discuss that at your tables. What is the impact of that? All right. So, what are the implications if we take care of our educators as teachers, our teachers? What are the implications in the classroom for kids? Do we make teachers want to stay? Somebody talk to. I need one person.
We feel appreciated, right? They feel cared for. So he said creates a culture, and I just said flat out care. When someone knows you care, they care for you too. It's just the way it works sometimes. Most of the time. So you just have to put that in.
Yeah. And anyone else?
Reinforcing the respect, that the teaching profession used to have and that we don't see as much anymore. So reinforcing that in our students, because that might not be what they're hearing at home.
Yeah. Man, say that again. Say that again.
It might not be what they're hearing at home.
And I tell people all the time, parents are sending us the very best that they have. And they may not always get the love that we would love to give them at home, but we have to create that in the schools. Very valid point. Very valid point. And so I'm going to close this out. I know I have 42 seconds left. 1 minute. So I'm going to close this out. Anybody know who Coach Prime is?
Yes.
All right. Any Colorado fans in here?
Yes.
Oh, you're the only one. Sorry. So Coach Prime is a master motivator. And so I want to close out with this video because we as educators, we are charged with a mighty task. And that mighty task is motivating and showing up every single day. So I'm going to close out with this video.
Usually God give me a word long before this, but he's been holding it. Because it's not about them. This is about us. This has nothing to do with the team that's opposing us. This is about us. This ain't got nothing to do with the naysayers, the unbelievers, the haters, the doubters. This is about us. When we started this journey, we told you it was going to be trying, it was going to be tough, but you endured because it's about us. That man next to you is a miracle. That man next to you is a believer. That man next to you is a go-getter. That man next to you is a dog. That man next to you is somebody who wants this thing. That man next to you is somebody who believes. That man next to you is somebody that got to have it today. We ain't got tomorrow. We got now. We ain't got next. We got now. We ain't coming no more.
We're here. We're here. We don't have tomorrow. We have today. So as we leave and go back to our buildings, just take that into consideration. We are our kids, in most cases, their only hope of having a choice-built life. And it starts with a group of people in this room. So thank you for your time.